Please be seated. The Court observes that other UN agencies, United Nations agencies and bodies, specialized agencies, international organizations, and third states also provided assistance in or in relation to the occupied Palestinian territory. The Court then recalls that on 7 October 2023, Hamas and other armed groups present in the Gaza Strip carried out attacks in Israel, killing more than 1,200 people, injuring thousands, and abducting 251, some of whom continued to be held hostage for more than 2 years. Following these attacks, Israel launched a large-scale military operation in the Gaza Strip by land, air, and sea, which has caused massive casualties, including the deaths of tens of thousands of civilians, a large number of whom were women and children, extensive destruction of civilian infrastructure, and the repeated displacement of the overwhelming majority of the civilian population in the Gaza Strip. The Court notes that based on the case file, there is no evidence that UNRWA as an entity breached the principle of impartiality within the meaning of Article 59. In other words, there is no evidence that UNRWA has discriminated with respect to nationality, race, religious belief, class, or political opinion during its distribution of humanitarian aid and provision of services in the occupied Palestinian territory. The Court observes that while neutrality is not a separate requirement under Article 59, the two concepts are related, and neutrality plays a role in assessing the impartiality of the activities of humanitarian organizations. Israel alleged that UNRWA has been infiltrated by Hamas and other terrorist organizations, and that UNRWA employees took an active part in carrying out the attacks of 7 October 2023. Israel further alleged a widespread and systemic misuse of UNRWA's assets and facilities by Hamas. According to Israel, its concerns were not adequately addressed by the United Nations. The Court considers that the information before it is not sufficient to establish UNRWA's lack of neutrality for the purpose of assessing its impartiality as an organization under Article 59. In particular, the fact that the OIOS investigation in 2024 led to the dismissal of 9 members of UNRWA personnel due to their possible involvement in the 7 October 2023 Hamas-led attacks against Israel is insufficient to support a conclusion that UNRWA as a whole is not a neutral organization. In addition, the Court finds that Israel has not substantiated its allegations that a significant part of UNRWA employees are members of Hamas or other terrorist factions. In the Court's view, under these provisions, Israel is not only required to perform the positive obligation to ensure essential supplies to the local population to the fullest extent of the means available to it, but it is also under a negative obligation not to impede the provision of these supplies or the performance of services related to public health. In this respect, to the extent that Israel does not itself fulfill the obligations under Articles 55 and 56, leaving that responsibility to the United Nations acting through UNRWA, as well as other international organizations and third states, Israel is under the same positive and negative obligations to support and not to restrict the activities of those entities. The Court observes that to the extent that the local population has been capable of enjoying many of these human rights in the occupied Palestinian territory, this has been largely enabled and ensured through the work of the United Nations, particularly through UNRWA, supported by the activities of other international organizations and third states. Consequently, any diminution by Israel of the capacity of UNRWA and these other actors to ensure these basic human rights means that the obligations of Israel to respect, protect, and fulfill these rights increases to a commensurate degree. In its advisory opinion, the Court recalls policies and practices of Israel that have resulted in the deprivation of the essentials of daily life for the local population of the Gaza Strip. The Court then discusses how the various rights it has identified may be engaged. The Court next turns to the obligations of Israel as a member of the United Nations. I shall now call upon the Registrar to read the operative part of the opinion in French.